12 News is your local election headquarters. Welcome to WPRI.com. I'm Tim White alongside my colleague Eli Sherman, a bleary-eyed Eli Sherman, and me too. It was a long night last night. But look, there's a post-election tradition, Eli, in Target 12 to break down voter data statewide. Let's start with this first map that we have here. And look, we should point out there's a lot of red on this map, Eli, but Kamala Harris did take Rhode Island 55 to 44%. But why don't you walk us through what we're seeing here, and you can bring up the map full.
Yeah, so obviously a lot of red there on the western part of the state, and just a clean, even divide for Democrats on the eastern part of the state. That's the blue there that you're seeing on the screen. And I think a lot of people look at this and their first thought is, wow, Republicans really have a strong handle. They dominate the state. But the reality is that most people in Rhode Island live on the eastern part of the state. That's the shoreline, the bay, down into Newport County and down along the shore in the south. So the density of people living in that blue part of the state is much greater than the western part of the state, which is more suburban and rural. So that's why you continuously see, even though there is this divide that looks like there's Republican dominance going on, the majority usually swings to the blue side because there's so many more people.
All right, so looking at this map, this is obviously 2024. I want to go back in time 4 years. This is what the map looked like in 2020. Subtle difference, but if you blinked, you missed it. A couple of communities in 2020, Joe Biden versus Donald Trump. There were more communities that were blue. I'm going to go back to 2024, and you'll see, Eli, Trump picked up a couple of towns here.
Yeah, he picked up 3 different communities. They include Richmond, which Biden had won by just, I think it was 3 votes in 2020. It was so close. West Warwick, which had flipped for Biden from Trump, who won it in 2016. And then the other one is Woonsocket, which Trump won this time by a very thin margin, Tim.
49 to 48%.
But this is a really remarkable one because I think it wasn't. This is the first time that Woonsocket has voted for a Republican since Ronald Reagan in 1984. So It's been a really long time since you've seen red on Woonsocket, and Trump was able to get it this time around.
Ronald Reagan actually took all of Rhode Island in 1984.
Almost swept the nation.
All right, let's go to this map. This is my favorite map here. I think we call this a heat map, right? Correct on that. Again, want you to walk us through it, but my cheap seats view is the darker the reddish orange there, the greater the margin of support for Trump. So if I'm reading this correctly, Trump saw growth in every Rhode Island community, even the ones that Harris won. Is that right?
Yeah, but I don't want people to look at this and think that Republicans swept the state. That's not what this is saying. No. It's exactly what you said, Tim. This is basically measuring the margin of support that Donald Trump had over the Democratic candidate between 2020 and 2024. And like you said, every single community, he either closed that gap or gained support if he had won it. And there's really a remarkable trend going on here, Tim, that I think is telling about the electorate, which is that the darker the color, the bigger the margin is, and he's seeing bigger margins of growth in the Providence urban area. The number one place being Central Falls, where he saw his margin increase by 17.1 percentage points. Wow. And that is already building off of a nearly 20 percentage point growth between 2016 and 2020. So Central Falls, which, you ask any political operative in the state, that is a Democratic stronghold, and we should note it did vote overwhelmingly for Harris.
Yeah, here is Harris, right? Here's Central Falls. Are we on 2024? We are. So 63% to 35% victory for Harris, but on that heat map,
you see Trump's support gaining there by a really large margin. And one of the things we saw in exit polls across the nation during election night, Tim, is that Trump was doing really well with Hispanic voters, especially Hispanic men. Central Falls has, I think it's close to 60 to 70% Hispanic residents. So you see this growth happening there. You see it happening in Providence, and you see it happening in Pawtucket. So big Democratic strongholds, but Trump has been able to make some gains there.
All right, we're also seeing almost a 10-point growth, 9 points up in Woonsocket and Johnston, 10 points. Johnston, did Johnston go for, yes, went for Donald Trump in 2024, as well as 2020, if I remember
That was
right.
the big story in 2020 when Johnston, which historically has been a big Democratic stronghold, flipped for Trump in 2020. And one thing to keep in mind is, because I think some people might look at this map and think, oh my goodness, Rhode Island is becoming a Republican state. We talked to our 12 News analyst, Joe Fleming, about this very thing. And he said that, don't take national campaigns or politics to indicate what the makeup of the electorate is. Look to the General Assembly for that. And really the General Assembly this year, there was no big change in the dominance that the Democrats have there. So there's a lot of people in the state that are willing to vote Republican on the national side, but are still voting for Democrats when it comes to state and local politics.
And we should point out, of the congressional delegation, Sheldon Whitehouse, Senator Sheldon Whitehouse, Congressman Gabe Amo, Congressman Seth Magaziner, all were reelected as well.
And had support in Woonsocket.
Good point. All right. Well, look, as you could tell from us going through it, all of these maps are interactive. So hang out on WPRI.com and you can toy around with these maps. Eli has a great explainer there as well. So make sure you check that out. Eli, thanks so much for putting this together.
Yep. Great to be here.